Okay, so we're going to look at another tip for kicking. So we've looked at how you can bring the knee up, push through, and this increases the hip involvement, hip engagement in the kick. We've looked at that. We've looked at other things. We've looked at how to kick through, how to bring the knee up first, how to stretch across to stretch that hip flexor, which will add to the power. Another thing we can look at is bringing it back, the recoil. So for instance, as we're kicking through, you can hold it there for a moment and pull it back. So we can just look at putting it there and then pulling it back. So this will enhance the recoil power. So by itself, it works with the emphasis of just putting it there and then pulling it back. When you add it all in together, when you then go back to doing the kick as a whole, you can then see how much more powerful it is just by tuning it in that way, by focusing on one emphasis, which is the recoil. So then when you add in the push, the hip flexion, the stretch, the kick then makes sense. This is sometimes more useful than breaking it down into a step-by-step, forwards, turn, back and down, forwards, step down and back. That's the step-by-step. Sometimes this is insufficient because it gives equal weight to each phase, when really you want to work on just one aspect more closely. So this will actually assist your ability to do step by step in a more correct way than attacking it directly. So logically, we go step by step, but this doesn't always get us involved. It doesn't always make it clear what needs to be done, which can demotivate us from the process, because the kick can be described logically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping in the stance. That's all well and good. It can be described logically, but it's in fact only partially a logical process, which all too often, particularly in Western martial arts, we look at everything too logically, so that we miss the nuance of what we're doing, because it's an emotional aspect, it's a mental, cognitive, it's a physical aspect. When we look at it just step by step, this ignores the holistic approach, which involves the body as a whole. We've got the energy, we've got the cognitive thinking aspect, which has been given too much weight over the years with the advance of the scientific approach and the technical aspects being hyper concentrated on, hyper fixated on. So this isn't to say that's not important, it's a small aspect which is often blown out of proportion. And when you look at it less logically, less practically, it still makes a certain logical sense to focus on one thing that perhaps is a weakness, perhaps is overlooked, in order to actually make more logical sense of the technical aspects. So to go back, we're just looking at placing it there and then pulling back. You can even do that with the foot as well, so that it's hooked. And this means you can then be pulling away whilst you're leaning in. So this is something which might be overlooked if you weren't emphasizing one aspect and you were just thinking, I kick, I snap back, I step down. When in fact there's a crossover. You can pull back as well as throwing the weight in and across. So this is a way, a method of practice, a tip which emphasizes this fact.